The Philippines has quietly executed one of its most consequential maritime security moves in years. A government-to-government purchase of 40 French-designed fast patrol boats based on OCEA's FPB-110 MKII. Signed in Manila on May 22, 2025, and valued at roughly 400 million euros, the program pairs hull numbers with something more durable: 9 years of integrated logistics support and basing equipment, making it not just a ship buy, but a capacity-building package. It is easily among the largest foreign investments into the Philippine Coast Guard to date, and signals Manila's intent to contest gray zone pressure with a larger, better-sustained white hull fleet. Before we go further, a brief note to our community. If you value sober, on-the-ground analysis of Asia's maritime security and want more Philippines-focused reporting, consider subscribing and sharing this video. It helps us sustain deep-dive coverage on issues that often get lost in the noise. What makes the deal strategic, rather than merely tactical, is the production and sustainment model. OCEA will build 20 boats in France, while a locally based yard in the Philippines fabricates the other 20, backed by a planned 20 to 25 million euros investment and a 200 to 250 person workforce. That local facility will not only maintain the new patrol craft, but could also support larger units like BRP Gabriela Silang, and even branch into civilian vessels, gradually stitching industrial know-how into the archipelago. This is industrial policy disguised as Coast Guard modernization, a hedge against supply chain fragility, and a down payment on maritime self-reliance. On the water, the FPB-110 MKII is a pragmatic tool rather than a prestige platform. At about 35 meters and 110 tons, the class is built in aluminum for speed and economy. Baseline specs point to 28 to 35 knots and a 700 nautical mile radius at 12 knots, numbers that matter when the mission is daily law enforcement, search and rescue, interdiction, and presence across more than 7,600 islands. For the Philippine variant, the PCG pushed OCEA to go further, increase crew from 17 to 21 and stretch endurance toward 1,100 nautical miles, reflecting operational realities from the West Philippine Sea to the Sulu and Celebes Seas. That is the right direction of travel for a service whose patrol rhythm is as critical as any single high-end weapon. Equally important is the fitted for but not with philosophy. The design reserves space and structure for a remote-controlled weapon station and associated ammunition stowage, yet the initial configuration keeps armament modest. This is precisely the signal a Coast Guard wants to send in a gray zone contest, capable of firm enforcement, calibrated to avoid inadvertent escalation. In practice, this posture lets Manila tune the coercion deterrence dial with more precision than if it fielded overtly militarized hulls, while retaining upgrade headroom if the threat picture shifts. The basing and sustainment architecture embedded in the contract is another force multiplier. The package includes logistics support for up to 9 years and equipment for multiple PCG bases, enabling distributed presence without the usual maintenance bottlenecks that plague fast craft fleets. That matters when incidents can flare at 2nd Thomas Shoal one week and off the Batanes the next. A fleet that can be kept at sea, rather than waiting on spare parts, restores initiative to the operator and imposes friction on malign actors. Strategically, the timing intersects with two macro trends. First, Manila is leaning hard into white hull signaling after a bruising cycle of water cannoning and rammings by Chinese cutters. The visual and legal optics of Coast Guard on Coast Guard interactions are fundamentally different from naval standoffs, and they shape the narrative terrain as much as the physical one. A larger PCG makes it harder for Beijing to erode customary use and administration of the exclusive economic zone by fait accompli. Second, the program locks in Franco-Philippine defense industrial ties beyond episodic port calls and exercises, building on French ODA, sovereign finance cooperation, and the broader Indo-Pacific strategy, Paris has articulated since 2018. In effect, Manila gets ships, Paris gets a foothold, and the region gets one more axis of external balancing that is not solely US-led. The boats themselves may be modest, but the operational concept is not. Think layered constabulary presence, Teresa Magbanua-class multi-role response vessels in BRP, Gabriela Silang handling blue water persistence, FPB-110 saturating near to mid-range patrol boxes, and smaller craft plus aviation assets knitting the seams. The FPB-110's recessed RGB launch positions port and starboard speed up boarding and SAR evolutions, while the added air conditioning and seating for a dozen passengers reflect the PCG's day-to-day reality of ferrying personnel to austere outposts across the archipelago. It's the dull, hard work of maritime governance, made possible by design choices that prize tempo over glamour. There is also a regional political economy angle. Japan remains the PCG's principal patron on large patrol vessels via ODA, and Tokyo has committed 5 additional 97-meter ships arriving later this decade. France stepping in at the 35-meter tier broadens Manila's toolkit and diversifies risk. In a future crisis, redundancy among suppliers translates into resilience at sea. If anything, the OCEA Yard Plan suggests a longer game. Maintenance sovereignty today, integration pathways tomorrow, unmanned surface underwater systems, improved maritime domain awareness suites, and common training pipelines across allied coast guards. Skeptics will ask if 40 fast patrol boats are sufficient to alter behavior by a larger adversary. The point is not to win a symmetric race. It is to raise the operational cost of coercion and to document, deter, and deny at scale. Fast craft enable rapid response and high-frequency patrolling along fishing grounds, energy blocks, and straits where infractions and accidents are most likely. The legal record these hulls can compile, backed by cameras, AIS, and coordinated prosecution, has strategic value in international fora and bilateral negotiations. At the same time, fitted for but not with hardpoints provide latent escalation dominance. If patterns worsen, Manila can climb the ladder without re-architecting the fleet. The delivery and absorption schedule will determine whether the strategic potential materializes. Naval news reporting indicates the first FPB-110 for PCG is slated to hit the water between 2026 and 2027, with the remainder fielded over the following 7 years. That phasing is realistic for crewing, training, and base upgrades, but it also means Manila must bridge the near-term gap with existing assets and allied partnerships. Exercises like Balikatan and trilateral patrols with Japan and the US will remain essential, as will the PCG's continued investment in evidence collection and rules of engagement discipline, areas where the service has already shown professional rigor under pressure. Finally, situate the program within Manila's broader procurement logic. The armed forces of the Philippines are buying harder-edged tools, BrahMos shore-based missiles, new combat aircraft, while the PCG expands day-to-day enforcement capacity. This bifurcation is not duplication, it is division of labor. By thickening the white hull presence with FPB-110s, Manila preserves headroom for the Navy and Air Force to focus on deterrence and warfighting readiness, rather than burning flight hours and steaming days on constabulary tasks. In a resource-constrained state, that is strategy. In sum, the FPB-110 MKII deal is more than the sum of 40 hulls. It is a long-horizon bet on presence, process, and partnerships. Presence through distributed patrol capacity and sustainment, process through industrial localization and predictable upkeep, partnerships through Franco-Philippine financing and integration that complements Japanese support. If delivery stays on track and the basing logistics promises are honored, the archipelagic state will have a Coast Guard sized and shaped for the operational realities it actually faces: fast, persistent, law-anchored, and upgradable. That is how you fight and win in the gray zone without losing your strategic balance. If this analysis helped clarify what's really changing for the Philippines at sea, please support the channel. Subscribe, ring the bell, and share this with friends who follow maritime security. Your engagement lets us keep producing serious, time-sensitive coverage of the West Philippine Sea and beyond.